Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys joining us as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, all that sorts of good stuff. And I'm really excited today to be joined by the one and the only Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing, sir?
John, I'm doing so good. This weekend, I caught up with the Umbrella Academy on Netflix. I highly recommend it. It's, of course, an adaptation of My Chemical Romance's Gerard Way and Gabriel Ba's comic, and wow, was it good.
I'm glad you had a chance to check that out. And also joining us, of course, is Ashley Whalen. Ashley, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm great. I stayed up late last night watching Pen 15 on Netflix or on Hulu. If you guys haven't seen that, it's hilarious, and I recommend it to everybody.
I have not checked that one out, but you know what we have been checking out a lot of lately as we go off the top with this? Following what's been going on in this train wreck called the Oscars. So, okay, let's recap.
Are you going to put that clown car picture up again?
No, I'm not going to put the clown
I love that picture.
I love the picture too. But so let's recap here, okay? So the Oscars come out, the Oscar leadership come out and say, we're going to do a best popular category at the Oscars. To which everybody gets tons of backlash, and shortly after they're like, we're kidding, we're not doing a best popular category, and they backed off it. Then they couldn't get their act together to actually find a host for the show, and they had the entire fiasco with everything, not the least of which was the Kevin Hart stuff, blah, blah. Then they come out and say, we're not going to live air the cinematography or editing categories. Nobody really cared that they were doing it to hair and makeup and short live action, but cinematography and editing, two of the pillars of the thing. And Rob, you and I predicted last week that they were going to back off this, and sure enough, they did. I believe it was on Friday they put out word that they were actually backing off this whole thing. Rob, were you surprised at all to hear that the Academy was backing off the cinematography? And now they will broadcast live, all the categories, including hair, makeup, short live, all that kind of stuff. It's all being broadcast. Any shock or surprise?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, these kinds of decisions that get made in the entertainment business are the height of idiocy. You see what people have to deal with. You have an award show that's entire reason for existing was not initially to sell commercials, because the Oscars weren't originally broadcast on TV, because there was no TV when the Oscars were created. They're to honor, they're for the people in the Academy to honor their fellow constituency and their fellow artists and men and women that work tirelessly on these films. That's all the Oscars should be about. And when they decide to put them on TV, sure, they need to make it an entertaining show that people will tune in and watch. But when you start taking away the awards that are the very foundational pillars of the Oscars, cinematography and editing being two disciplines that are only available in motion pictures, then you've gone wrong. You've made a wrong turn. And boy, did they get a lot of backlash from their own members. Good on them.
Here's the thing that I find hilarious and sad at the same time, okay? So they do this thing, and then they backtrack. Now, in the statements they put out regarding the backtrack, the people at the Oscars, the leadership said, after first consultation and talking with our membership, being the other Academy members, talking with our membership, we've decided to, include cinematography and editing. And I've said this last week, Rob, but now that they've finally backtracked on it, it's got to be said again. Why the hell was now the only time you were talking to your membership? Like, you are the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences. The Academy Awards is your highlight event of the year. To make a move, like the reason you have leadership is so you don't have to get everybody in consensus over the minutia of running the day-to-day operation. I get that. But when you're going to make a move, like we're not going to live broadcast cinematography and editing, two of the pillars of filmmaking, how is that a decision you reach without first having some consultation with your membership, without having at least like one little town hall meeting? Hey guys, the Academy's got a big facility down there on Sunset. Hey guys, we're going to have a meeting on January 5th to discuss proposals from the board about how to shorten the length of the show, particularly issue 1, 2, and 3. Please come and express any opinions you have. Why are they only now, when the world turns against them, and Alfonso Cuarón and Guillermo del Toro and Martin Scorsese and all these guys have to go out publicly? They have to publicly call you out. Their own leadership. They have to publicly call them out, and only then does this Academy leadership listen to its membership. Look, was it the right move for them to fall back on this whole thing about not including cinematography and editing? Yeah, that's the right move, but it's yet another massive mistake by this existing leadership that in just a few short months, Rob, these guys have made Titanic level blunders, from the whole best popular category to the hosting fiasco, to withdrawing the thing of cinematography and editing, to the fact that you never even talked to your membership about making such a major drastic move to your marquee event of the year, forcing your own membership to go public and call you out. This is black eye after black eye after black eye after black eye, and they're running out of eyes to get hit on this thing. And I am just flabbergasted that this is the leadership of the Academy. And I said this last week, Rob, but if I'm a member of the Academy, I am absolutely pulling a Padme Amidala and saying we need a vote of no confidence. We need to replace this leadership. I'm sure they're wonderful people. I'm sure they're very nice people with lots of friends and lots of experience in the industry, but this is a job that's clearly outside of their capability of doing. I don't know. Anyway, Ashley, you had a chance to hear about this. They've withdrawn on this. What was your first reaction to hearing that news?
I mean, it didn't surprise me. I was like, yeah, I mean, naturally you're going to have to do that. I mean, look at the backlash that happened. So I'm happy, and it should have just never happened in the first place. So I'm glad that they are trying to get their act together at least.
Yeah. All right, guys. What do you guys think about that? Jump down to the comments section below. Now, clearly, I think it was the right move at this point, but how we got to this place is just mind-boggling to me. All right. Listen, let's now move on to our main topics today. How do we select our main topics on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. Just email me your topics and questions anytime, 24/7, to john@thejohncampeashow.com. That's john@thejohncampeashow.com. Make sure you guys put the word topic in the subject line. And as always, guys, please keep those emails to 90 words or less. With that out of the way, Ashley, what's our first topic today?
All right, first one, Mr. Yasman 300. Greetings, John, Robert, and Ashley, and how are you guys? I saw online from a Transformers fan site who attended New York Toy Fair are saying that Hasbro said during their Toy Fair panel that Bumblebee is the start of a new storytelling universe. Is this them confirming that Bumblebee will reboot the film series and ignore the Bay films?
All right, Robert, listen, we've had a lot of speculation for a while here. Going into Bumblebee, there was different reports saying it's a reboot, and then it's not a reboot. And then I go to see the movie, and it's like, okay, it's kind of a reboot, but with just a few continuity errors, it could just be seen as a prequel. Now, Hasbro is saying at Toy Fair, Bumblebee was the start of a new storytelling universe. Do you take this definitively as they're saying, yep, now we're saying that Bumblebee was a reboot, or do you think there's still the possibility it's just a prequel?
Oh, I think it's pretty definitive that they're looking to go into a new direction. I mean, watching Bumblebee compared to the other Transformers films, the other Transformers films now have a certain crassness to them that we weren't necessarily aware of, but it's really apparent when you're watching Bumblebee, because Bumblebee has so much heart, and the way the characters are portrayed was much more, I think, along the lines of how they would rather Hasbro as a corporate entity would rather have the Transformers films go in that direction, where it as the Bay Transformers films moved on, it was all about the Bayhem, the Michael Bayhem, the explosions and the craziness and now you've in one film you've turned a franchise around and really instilled in it a heart and, I dare say, a humanity that it didn't have before. So why not?
You're absolutely right. You know what? I think Hasbro was playing a little bit of game of hedging their bets going into Bumblebee, because some people said to me, but John, didn't they say that it was a reboot before? Yeah, they did imply that, but then other people connected to the film said things that implied that it was a prequel. And it almost feels to me like this, Rob. It feels like they didn't know how they wanted to handle Bumblebee or portray Bumblebee until they saw the reaction from the audience. And in that sense, it almost feels a little bit like that Hasbro was acting a little bit, Hasbro and Paramount were acting a little bit like Warner Brothers has handled their DC properties. It's like, we don't want to say too much. Like, is it this? And it almost felt like that. And then they saw the reaction. The movie's made like $450 some odd million now worldwide, which now means I didn't know if Bumblebee could be profitable, despite the fact that I thought it was fantastic. I didn't know if it could be profitable. It's now safely into the profitable area, which I didn't know if that was possible coming off the last couple of Transformers movies. But the film's now profitable. They clearly see the fans love it. The critics like it. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that they're seeing it as a fresh new start. And so seeing that, Hasbro goes, it's the beginning of a brand new universe of storytelling. So now they're going to move off and go ahead. But Rob, there's still probably going to be a little bit of confusion in all this, because the fact of the matter is, you still have the same voice as Optimus Prime. Right. You're still handling Bumblebee kind of the same way, where he's talking through a radio voice. There's obviously a lot of design similarities and things like that. Do you think the audience is going to be able to just, kind of wrap their heads around and go, oh yeah, this is different, this is new? Or do you think there's still going to be a little bit of confusion on that?
Well, no, I think audiences are savvy. They get it. Look, I'm a big Godzilla fan, and there's multiple Godzilla continuities. There's, if you include you don't include the animated continuities, but there's like basically 4 if you include Legendary's new monster continuity. And people know that. I think that the diehard fans understand what's going on. as long as you're clear with fans and don't pretend, say, your franchise is in continuity to the rest of the franchise, right? I think it's fine. And I think, look, Transformers already has. You've got Beast Wars. How many different Transformers shows have there been over the last 30 years? So it isn't like Transformers fans aren't used to these different kind of, whether they're soft reboots or the different continuities. I think it's a great thing they've done. And it was a ballsy hire to hire Travis Knight to direct the film. He'd never directed a live action feature before. He was coming off Kubo and the Two Strings and running Leica Studios. Yeah. And they really, this is the kind of this is when corporate interests work. You get Travis Knight hired to redefine a franchise for a corporation and redefine it to take it forward, and you're going to get a bigger returns than the diminishing returns that Transformers: The Last Night brought to the studio. And I think it was a really savvy hire. They took a page from Kevin Feige's book over the MCU, and this is the way to go. Good job.
All right, Ashley, what's the next topic today?
The next one is from Alejandro Saravia. Greetings from Chile. Finally, we now know the release date of Dune, November 20th, 2020. I can't wait for this epic film. However, we must consider the reality. Average moviegoers don't know what Dune is about. Last Disney's sci-fi film was a box office flop, and the studio will spend at least $200 million for Dune. So do you think that they'll want a more popcorn blockbuster action movie than the slow burn kind of movie that Denis usually makes? Gracias, and bring on the filthy.
You know what, Rob? He brings up an interesting question. He brings up an interesting point. Fact of the matter is, not a lot of people out there today, not a lot of the general movie-going audience, because even the original Dune film was before a lot of people's time.
84.
Yeah, are even aware of Dune. Although I don't think that's, a lot of movies that come out that aren't sequels, people aren't aware of it at first. And then they find out about it. But here's the interesting thing with this, Robert. When he brings up an interesting fact, Denis Villeneuve, who is kind of universally accepted as one of the best directors in the business today. Like, you're talking guys like Christopher Nolan today. You're talking guys like Denis Villeneuve. Like, they're all up there in that conversation, right? But the fact of the matter is, Denis has not had what you would call big box office success up until this point. As a matter of fact, if we look at the last number of films that he's done, look at Blade Runner 2049. It made $259 million. That was a monumental flop for the studios. They lost a lot of money on Blade Runner 2049. Also, Arrival, $203 million. Sicario. A lot of people know Sicario. You might be shocked to find out that worldwide it only made $84 million. Enemy, Made $3 million. Granted, that was only a limited release film that he did with Jake Gyllenhaal, of course. And my personal favorite film of Villeneuve's is Prisoners, that he did with Hugh Jackman as well, that made only $122 million. So when you're looking at a filmmaker like this that we all kind of see, agree, and acknowledge, this dude cranks out fantastic content. We're now moving into, Rob, a movie like Dune. A film that is going to be, like Blade Runner, very expensive to make. They're stacking an insane cast along the way as they're doing it. And they're going to have presumably a massive marketing budget as well. Should the studios and should fans be concerned that, hey, can they even make enough return on this to get, because they're talking about this film maybe being in 2 parts. Can they get enough of a return on this to even get the second part made or get future things made? Or is this going to be, unfortunately, another flop on Denis Villeneuve's resume? How do you see this?
Well, look, one of the things about Dune is a very political movie, and it's a movie about big ideas, and it doesn't focus on, it's not an action franchise. There's certainly large epic action scenes and battle scenes and visual effects scenes. But for the most part, I mean, I would equate it more to Game of Thrones in that you've got all of these machinations of all of these different factions working for and against one another. And then you'll have the Battle of Blackwater Bay, or you'll have a dragon attack or something like that. But it's...
Oops. We seem to have lost Robert, ladies and gentlemen.
Man.
So, no.
Question mark.
And it's just a big question mark there for Robert. We lost Robert midstream. Apparently, it looked like he was looking away from his camera as if something was happening. I don't know. Maybe he got dusted.
The internet. His entire rant right there was about to the internet couldn't handle it.
Rob broke the internet. And hold a second, I think there's a possibility he might be back now. Rob, are you back with us now?
I was gesticulating and hit my keyboard. So I apologize.
Yeah, you're too into it.
What I was going to say was the Battle of Blackwater Bay, and you have Jenny and her dragon attacks, but the film is really about the people. It's not so much about the epic battles. And even though that's a part of it, I think the cast that they're assembling is what the attraction to Dune is. It's a story. It's one of my favorite science fiction novels. It's a story with the big ideas, and it's going to I have to watch my hand. Get excited talking about Dune.
Quite frankly, I don't want to know where your hands are. I don't know why I just don't want to know where your hands are.
But that's what I'm excited about. I mean, I think it's one of the headiest brews of mix of philosophy and politics and sci-fi action adventure and the big ideas. And I think that's what's attracted Denis Villeneuve to the material. And his other movies, aside from Blade Runner, haven't been hugely expensive. I mean, Arrival probably was, but Arrival was the same thing. Arrival was this epic sci-fi story that was really a personal story about Amy Adams and her life. And it had great effect sequences, but it was not a $200 million movie. It was a much smaller, quieter film. And I think that's what they're looking towards for Dune, that it's going to be epic. It's going to feel epic. It's going to take you on a big journey, but it's not going to break the bank.
But can't you say, wouldn't it be a fair thing to say, though? Because you just said a lot of very poetic things that convinced me that this movie's going to be good. You've got me convinced that this movie's going to be good.
I think it's going to be good.
It comes back down to the question, though. This is going to be an expensive movie. And
yes, no doubt.
Not to hammer the point too much, but like the fact of the matter is, when you run down this list, Denis Villeneuve has not yet shown, and I think this is fair to say, he has not yet shown that he can direct a film in such a way that it brings in a large audience, right? I think that's fair to say. We have not seen him do that yet. With a movie like Dune that is going to be supremely expensive, with a movie like Dune that is going to cost a huge amount when it comes to marketing and all that kind of stuff, can this movie attract audiences in the numbers that it's going to need to do to avoid being considered a big disappointment financially for the studio and maybe kill any possibilities for it becoming a franchise long term? Because there's a lot of Dune books, man. There's a lot. Yeah. There's some good stories out there. They're making this movie thinking franchise. can it do that? Can it get that money? As you were kind of pointing out, can it do that?
I think it can. I think, look, people want to see great epic entertainment. That's everybody wants to be entertained. Dune has a huge reputation. The book was published in 1965. I mean, so many people have read it over the years. It's so influential. We do have 2 miniseries, and we have the David Lynch Dune, and I think that it's not like people are unaware of it. And look, younger audiences, they will be educated. Younger audiences are watching the internet. As soon as the trailer for Dune drops, they're going to watch it. They're going to see it. There's a lot of great talent involved in the movie. I mean, watching some of these conversations that are going to happen between these characters when they're dealing with the big issues, and the idea of the Fremen and the sandworms, and the battle between the House Harkonnen and House Atreides, and the Padishah Emperor Shaddam IV. I mean, it's great stuff. When they show this in a trailer, people are going to get excited. I guarantee you they will.
Watch your keyboard, Robert. You're getting too excited again.
I know.
The hands start
really
pounding.
I'm sorry. I'm getting I'm bouncing in my chair. I've scooched I hit it with actually my elbow, and I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry, viewers. I won't do it again.
All right, let's move on now to the third email of the day. What's our third email today?
All right, next up is Dan Rodriguez. It looks like Universal Pictures has shifted Fast and the Furious 9 from April 10th, 2020 to May 22nd, 2020. However, what's interesting about this is now Fast 9 will be competing with the new Godzilla vs. Kong film and the new Spongebob film. First, what are your thoughts? Second, I have to ask who wins this weekend. I'm going to have to give the Memorial Day weekend win in 2020 to Godzilla vs. Kong monster film, but I think it'll be a close one. I'm looking forward to all 3 films. Thoughts?
I mean, this is a rather interesting move. Now, clearly, this is only moving it by a number of weeks. So it's not like, oh no, something's wrong with the film and they need 4 extra months to fix something, right? This isn't a situation like that. But what is so odd about the decision is to put it right on the date with a high-profile film like Kong vs. Godzilla, but more than just another high-profile film. It's a film that on many levels is trying to attract a lot of the same demographic that Fast and the Furious is trying to attract out to it. And that, to me, makes it seem like an odd choice. It seems like an odd choice. I don't know that I like this move, to be honest with you, by Universal. I'm not sure that I love this move. Now, as far as the question goes about who wins that weekend, and this is, of course, long-term, speculating. As far as who's going to win that weekend, well, let's see what kind of precedent we have. All right, the last 2 Fast and the Furious movies, all right? Fast 8 opened to about $100 million, $99 million, and Fast 7 opened to $147 million. Both of those are bigger than the last 2, also the first 2 and only 2, films that we've had in this Godzilla King Kong universe. Kong opened to $61 million. Godzilla opened to $93. Both the Fast and Furious previous 2 films opened larger than that. One of them significantly larger than that. On that basis alone, I would say right now, sitting here on February 18th, my guess would be, well, we have the data right in front of us. Fast and the Furious is going to win that weekend. And I believe Fast and Furious is going to win that weekend. There is one sort of but to all that, though, Robert. And the but in all that comes from this little movie coming out called Godzilla King of the Monsters. The whole narrative could change here. If Godzilla King of the Monsters comes out, and let's face it, the first Godzilla was not fantastic. I enjoyed it, but it had a lot of critics. Kong, I thought was pretty fun. I like Kong Skull Island, but it wasn't fantastic. I don't think it had a lot of naysayers for it. But if Godzilla King of the Monsters can come out, because everybody at Comic-Con got real excited by that trailer. Everyone at Comic-Con got so excited for that trailer. It was a great trailer. If this movie can come out and live up to its potential, regardless of what the opening weekend is for this movie, if this movie blows everybody's socks off and gives us the giant monster movie we've all been wanting to see, then that changes the landscape of that 2020 release date when Kong vs. Godzilla opens up against Fast and Furious 9.
Yeah.
I will totally change my prediction at that point. But then again, if Godzilla King of the Monsters comes out and his lukewarm reception disappoints a little bit, then I'm saying, so February 18th, I'm saying Fast and Furious 9 wins that weekend, but all bets are off once Godzilla King of the Monsters comes out because that'll either reinforce that or totally obliterate that. Rob, number one, what do you think about the move of Fast 9 to move on to the date of Godzilla King of the Monsters or Godzilla versus Kong? And on top of that, right now, if you had to look into your crystal ball and look into the future, which one wins that weekend?
Well, my boundless love for the Fast and the Furious franchise is well known, but my love of giant monsters is also well known. So it's kind of like the weekend when Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan and Poltergeist opened on the same day. Now, what that means is it's a win for everybody. For me, for an old school genre fan, old school geek like myself, it's just an orgiastic cornucopia of great movie going dumb. That's I mean, come on. Now I can't wait.
That's your next T-shirt, by the way, right there. The orgiastic cornucopia, yeah, whatever that was. That's your next
I don't
T-shirt.
even remember, but something like that. I just think that look, there is a lot of overlap with those audiences, but I think that when you have two big movies like this, I'm of the opinion that it creates an excitement. It gets people all lathered up to be like, to go have some. I say I gotta watch my hands again. Have some excitement in the movie theater because Godzilla King of the Monsters looks amazing. It looks and by the way, how do you top that when you've got Ghidra and Mothra and Rodan, and now you've just got Kong? But okay, and then you've got Fast and Furious 9 coming off the heels of Hobbs and Shaw. So we've got two movies coming out this summer that lead into both of these films. And I think both are going to do really well. But I do think the Fast and the Furious, the 9th installment, or I guess it would be the 10th because Hobbs and Shaw would be the 9th.
Yeah.
So the 10th installment in the Fast and Furious franchise is going to take that weekend because, again, giant monsters, I've talked about how Americans don't have that sense of whimsy anymore. And giant monsters are whimsical. But cars, man, cars are so uniquely American. Just like Vin Diesel, and I think that I think we're all cars will always trump giant monsters in this country, at least here. And I think Fast and Furious 9 will take it, but I think both films are going to do very, very well.
Ashley, let me ask you this. Okay, so this release date in 2020 comes rolling along. You've got a free evening. Your significant other at the time says, hey, let's go to the movies tonight. We got two movies out right now. We got Fast and Furious 9. We got Godzilla versus Kong. Which one are you buying your ticket for, Ashley?
Okay, well, that's interesting because normally I would go for, as Robert was saying, more of like a car movie over a monster movie. But I feel like because Fast and the Furious has so many movies that precede Fast and the Furious 9, I would be intimidated to just go buy a ticket for Fast and the Furious 9. So I'd probably go see Godzilla because I feel like I could just like fall right into that movie a little bit more.
That's an interesting point of view.
A salient point.
All right. With that down and out of the way, let's move on now to our fourth email today. Ashley, what's next?
Next up is Dominic Manelli. Greetings, Giovanni. Alita Battle Angel took the #1 spot at the box office this weekend, but it only had a $27 million opening. Did okay overseas, but I read a report that said the movie needed to make around $550 million just to break even. It can't possibly make it, can it?
I think it can make it. I think it's possible that it can make it, but I mean, let's look at the let's look at the box office as it came in this weekend. Alita Battle Angel came in at #1 at $27.8 million. The Lego Movie 2 actually only had a very disappointing opening, but it only had like a 35% drop from week 1 to week 2, which is pretty good. Still, this is a movie that's going to lose a lot of money for the studio, but it came in with $21.2 million. Isn't It Romantic makes $14.2 million. What Men Want makes 10.9, and Happy Death Day to You dropped significantly from the first film's opening weekend. So I believe the first film opened with a $23 million opening weekend. Happy Death Day to You, which some people are saying is even better than the first one, only made $9.8 million because, quite frankly, the trailers were awful. But even at only $9.8 million opening weekend, it's already more than its production budget because they only paid $9 million to make this movie. So It's easily going to fly into the profitable territory. Another win for Blumhouse, just maybe not as big as a win as they were hoping. So Alita Battle Angel, the official number for the weekend is $27.8 million. That is a little higher. Some projections had it around 25. Some even said as low as 22, comes in at $27.8 million. And by the way, worldwide, its global worldwide total right now is sitting at about 130 something million dollars. However, those reports you read are correct. Alita Battle Angel is a film that needs to make $500 million plus just to break even. Can it get there? It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. I was reading a good article on Variety talking about that specific issue, as a matter of fact, about can this movie climb to that height? Can it get to that number? Can it have the types of legs? And I don't know that it can. Because while there are some people that really loved the film, and by the way, I saw the film finally, and I enjoyed it. Terrible dialogue, bad love story, horrendously awful ending, all mitigated by great action, a lead character you find yourself getting emotionally attached to and cheer for right away, incredible visual effects. All of that outweighed the negative to me, and I walked out of the theater with a pretty good smile on my face. I did.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, I walked out with a pretty good smile on my face. Again, some absolutely atrocious things in it, yes, but I believe those things are outweighed by the good, and it ends up being it's a pretty fun movie. And I do hope they get a chance to make another one, but at needing the amount of money they spent on this thing,
yeah,
the real total ended up being around $220 million they spent. Now, Fox is claiming that extra tax credits they got mitigated that, and it really makes the production cost $170 million regardless. That number that those guys are giving is still pretty accurate. It's around $500 million that they got to get to, a little bit north of that, and maybe even as high as $550. I'm pessimistic that it can do it, especially with non-universal word of mouth. You get some people love it, some people don't. I just don't know it can get that high. Now, there's still some pretty big markets, Robert, that it needs to open up in, and that could be the difference. But they can't be thrilled with a $27.8 million opening weekend. Anyway, what do you think about these results?
Well, I think everything you said is absolutely correct. I mean, I'm hoping everybody, I have yet to see the film, but everybody who's talked to me about it has liked it, or like you said, came out with a smile on their face, enjoyed what they saw. And I'm hoping, look, when a movie like this gets made, it's an adaptation of a manga, and it's a passion project of James Cameron's, and he teamed up with Robert Rodriguez, his friend of 25 years. I like to see things like this succeed. You know, it's always better when these kinds of movies succeed, because it makes studios more apt to take a chance on these large budget epic visions. And, you know, as a moviegoer, I'm glad to get those. So I'm hoping that when it opens, did it open in China yet?
No, that's one more. Yeah. But they're saying because of that, what's the movie you're dying to see again?
The Wandering Earth.
They're saying right now that the Wandering Earth could crush it. They're saying the Wandering Earth could keep it, but it'll be interesting. But that is one. So that was in that Variety article I was reading. I thought that was pretty interesting. But yeah, there are a couple, including China, of key markets it still needs to open up in.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that China, you know, China that's a sweet spot for this movie. So hopefully it'll do really, really well. I mean, I'm pulling for it. I'm a huge James Cameron fan, and the fact that he threw his weight behind this film to get it made, I think is really, really cool. So I want it to succeed.
All right. With that down, let's move on to our final email of the day. Ashley, what's our last one?
Last one is from Vic G. I know everyone was saying that Margot Robbie wasn't going to be in the Suicide Squad, but now Forbes went back and said they're now being told that Robbie is in fact going to be in the James Gunn movie, and as a matter of fact, will begin shooting it later this year. With Gunn trying to relaunch Suicide Squad, is it a good idea to have Harley Quinn back in it?
That's interesting. That is an interesting question, because we were told for a while, okay, she's not going to be in Gotham City Sirens, there's no Joker Harley Quinn movie, and she's not going to be in James Gunn's Suicide Squad, because he's kind of rebooting the whole thing. But now, here's specifically what Forbes had to say. This is specifically what was in their article. Forbes said this: I have learned, this is coming from the writer of the article over at Forbes magazine, I have learned from sources close to the production that, in fact, the information about Harley Quinn being absent from the new Suicide Squad movie is no longer up to date. She is indeed expected to appear in James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, which is expected to begin production this year. This year. Now, I do want to point something out, and I like Forbes. I do want to point something out. The whole thing that Harley Quinn is not going to be in Suicide Squad came from Forbes. That's where that news came from. And now Forbes is saying the information about her not being in that is no longer up to date. Don't give me that. Are you going to tell me that James Gunn said, okay, but I don't want Harley Quinn in my movie? Great, okay. So then the news gets out. Harley Quinn not in it. And then James just woke up one day, you know what? Nah, I do want Harley Quinn in the movie. Yeah. Okay, that movie, the information is no longer up to date. Let's just say it. We got that one wrong. I mean, from what it looks like, she's still not going to be in Gotham City Sirens. There's still not going to be a Joker Harley Quinn movie, all that kind of stuff. But that one little detail, we made a wrong assumption, whatever, it's not there. Whatever the case may be. Bottom line is, it looks like Harley Quinn is going to be in the Suicide Squad. I have two thought patterns on this, Rob. On the one hand, my thought is, well, you know, if James really wants to kind of redo the whole thing about Suicide Squad, make it with entirely different characters, not look at it as a sequel, but as kind of a relaunch of it, different characters, different actors, yeah, go clean slate. Go clean slate with it. On the other hand, there's no doubt, I don't think any of us here, the three of us, would debate that Harley Quinn, played by Margot Robbie, wasn't the most popular character coming out. That's the one everybody cosplayed as. That's the one, even including me, I cosplayed as Harley Quinn. That's the one that everybody was talking about. That's the one everybody's buzzing about. It even got her own, Birds of Prey movie and what have you. There is an argument to be made about having at least one piece of connective tissue between the two movies. So I'm not quite sure where I fall on this and whether it's a good idea or a bad idea to have her in there. I know as a fan, I'm curious to see her there. But Rob, do you think this is the right move to have, Harley Quinn in this new James Gunn rendition of Suicide Squad?
Well, I do, because she was the breakout character. The movie made a lot of money. It did really, really well.
700 plus million.
I was not a fan of that film at all. But the very idea of the Suicide Squad is, the Suicide Squad's just a name. You get to recruit new guys and new girls, new creatures, new metahumans or whatever every time you go out on a mission. So who's ever in jail, you're going to pardon whomever. So I would say for James Gunn, it's probably smart to keep that breakout character, but then he also gets to add whoever he wants. He can make up or delve into the DC canon and find obscure villains. You don't necessarily have to use, say, like a Killer Croc or something. You can find whoever you want. And Harley Quinn, I mean, imagine if she's like the administrator of the Suicide Squad. It could be very, you've got this crazy person who is leading other crazy people to do a crazy suicide mission. I mean, I think you got to have her. And who wouldn't want to be in a movie that James Gunn's making? It's probably going to be a match made in heaven.
Yeah, well, here's the interesting thing, though. So, wait a minute. So, the last time we saw Harley Quinn, Joker was breaking her out of prison. That's the last that we saw of her in Suicide Squad, Joker breaking her out of prison. So, she's going to get separated from Joker, do Birds of Prey in The Fabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, and then at some point in that movie, she's got to get thrown back in jail so she can be enrolled into the Suicide Squad thing again. And then what? Then she breaks out again later so she can do another standalone movie of some sorts. I mean, that's the part to me that I find intriguing, is like, this is going to be kind of an odd bunch of jumping around. Like, does she still have the explosive in her neck in Emancipation? Or I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle this whole thing.
She's been busy,
She is keeping very busy. All right, guys, with all that down, we like to save a little bit of time here on the John Campea Show to take your live questions. So we're going to do that right now. Go over to the live chat board and see what you guys are saying. So, Ashley, what are people talking about in the chat board?
All right, first super chat of the day is from Sky, Amazing Guy. Bumblebee is officially a reboot confirmed at Toy Fair by Hasbro. This is great news. Let's see what the true future of the franchise holds in store.
I would be a little bit hesitant to say confirmed Hasbro Bumblebee reboot. The wording because they never use the word reboot, to be clear. I believe they meant reboot. Rob, you clearly believe they meant reboot. So they said this is the start of a new universe of storytelling. That heavily implies that Bumblebee was a reboot. It heavily implies it. But just to be clear, they didn't actually use the word reboot. So let's keep that in mind. Hey, look, I loved Bumblebee. I thought it was fantastic. If this is a taste of things to come with the new way they're going to conduct, produce, and handle these Transformers movies, I'm all for it, Rob.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think that's great. Look, all that matters is that we're getting great stories, great movies, great characters, and that's it. That's all I've ever wanted. And I think we got that.
All right, what's next?
Right, Sin Vendetta. Hey, Robert and John, I'm 98% digital with my movies, but one series I will always buy physical is the Lord of the Rings extended editions. Own them both on DVD and Blu-ray, but where is the 4K Blu-ray releases?
Rob,
they weren't. The movies actually weren't finished in 4K. They were only finished in 2K, so we'd only be getting an upscale version of those anyway. Remember, I mean, they came out, they're 18, 19 years old now, and that's almost 20. That's what is that? 20% of a century. So the technology has definitely marched forward. There wasn't even HD, really, not really. So we might get a 4K reissue, but they would have to re-render the effects. So maybe we've got a lot of 4K upscales before. So I would imagine we'll get 4K upscales of Lord of the Rings, but not yet.
All right, what's next?
Rich Avina, I'm super excited about Shazam, but worried it will flop. No one I know who usually watches the hero genre seems interested. Should I be worried?
I'm not worried about it flopping at all. Now, I don't think it's going to be a billion-dollar film, but there's a lot of space between flop and billion-dollar film. There's a lot of area in there. I think this is going to be a successful film. Is it going to be Aquaman successful? I doubt it, just because he didn't have the intro that Aquaman had already. Is it going to be Wonder Woman successful at $800 million? I don't think so, although that's possible. I think that's within the scope of reality. But remember, this is a film that it needs to make $450, $500 million, and then it's getting into the profitability range. Rob, I don't know how big, you and I differ on how big we think the movie can be, but I think it's pretty safe to say neither of us think this movie's going to be a flop, right? It's not going to flop.
This movie's going to come out. It's probably going to get great reviews, and unless it's a terrible movie, and everything we've seen it would say to the contrary, that it is a great movie. And I think everybody involved it looks like they've made a great film. I mean, Zachary Levi looks great as Shazam. And I think this movie is going to have a lot of excitement behind it. It's one of those films where I think it's really weird that people speculate that, no one's excited to see this movie. Well, it's because it's the first. There's no, we don't know how excited to be because we haven't seen it yet. But I do think that when it comes out, I think it's going to surprise everybody. It's not going to surprise us because it looks great to me, but I think it's going to be very, very successful.
Ash, are you excited for this one?
Yeah, I actually want to see this over some of the other ones that have come out, just because, it has some reminiscence of Big and all of these childlike nostalgic films. So I think it looks pretty great. I'm excited. I'll definitely see this one.
All right, what's next?
Bryan Esparza, thoughts on Gabriel Iglesias? Just saw him live.
I actually had Gabriel in my studio once. I can't remember what we had him in for or which project he was promoting. He's funny. I've not sat down and watched hours of Fluffy, but the stuff I've watched some stuff of his comedy sessions. The dude's a funny dude, but that's as far as my thoughts on him go. All right, what's next?
Willow Yang, all the Hitler rant parodies led me to watching Downfall, so that's what he was actually saying. Really liked the movie. R.I.P. Bruno Ganz.
My God, I think the greatest thing ever to happen to the internet is those Hitler parody things. Whether it's the one where he's complaining about the trailer for a certain movie coming out, or complaining about Windows versus Mac, there is one of those Hitler parody things for everything out there. And I always find myself laughing hysterically at them. And it's been forever since I've seen the original film, though, Rob.
It's a fantastic movie. I mean, it's about literally about the last days of Hitler. The fact that anything like this could become the Hitler memes. I too find many of them hilarious. I mean, can you imagine being a German listening to that and watching those? And obviously what he's saying has nothing at all to do. Like, I don't even understand how a German speaker could ever find one of those memes funny, because clearly that's not what is being said. But Bruno Ganz was a terrific, terrific actor. He stars in one of my favorite movies of all time, Wings of Desire, from 1987, Wim Wenders. It's one of my favorite fantasy films and one of the most beautiful movies ever made. And I was sorry to hear about his passing. Big fan of his.
What's next?
Willow Young again. Also, John, have you actually tried eating ketchup on eggs, or do you just hate the idea of it? What about stir-fried eggs and tomatoes? I
have had ketchup with eggs. I'm speaking from experience, and I nearly vomited. And every time I even think about it, I get a little bit of a gag reflex thing going. So yes, I have tried it, and no thank you. It is for those who are evil. Those who are evil perpetuate this evilness in the world. So there you go. All right, what's next?
All right, Bryan Esparza, when do Captain Marvel reviews start releasing?
I think the reviews start releasing like 4 days before the movie comes out. But the more important number is that Disney has already announced that the social media embargo is going to lift, like, I can't remember the exact date, but it's a couple of weeks before the movie comes out. That's key. So now what they want to do now is Disney wants to have the social media embargo to lift first, so all the critics who see it can get on Twitter and go, "Oh my God, this movie's amazing," or "Oh my God, whatever," and then have another wave of positive buzz with the reviews then lifting just a few days before the movie opens, because that's when the premiere is. So it's going to lift about 3 or 4 days before then. But the key number here is they're lifting the social media embargo weeks early. I can't remember the exact date off the top of my head, but keep an eye open for that. All right, what's next?
DC Patience, so happy Sony made Spider-Verse SW open source.
I don't know what that means. SW open source. Do you know what she's talking about?
No. Is that about the characters that they've taken from all different incarnations of Spider-Man? I don't know.
Yeah, sorry, D. I don't quite know what you're talking about there. All right, what's next?
Mike Hill, is Alita worth watching? How bad? 1 out of 10.
It is. I think it's definitely worth watching. I do. Especially if you go in with realistic expectations. Understand the dialogue is not great. Understand the love story does not work. Understand all that. But you're going to fall in love with this character. I think you're going to fall in love with Alita, and the action is breathtaking, and there's a lot of it, and the visual effects are really stunning. So, yeah, I don't give scores 1 out of 10. I don't give scores 1 out of 10. I got over that a long time ago. All right, what's next?
Bryan Esparza, so when should Disney-Fox deal officially close?
I'm hearing by May. I'm hearing by the end of May. The whole thing should be wrapped, and maybe even a little bit before that. But it should be coming pretty soon. It should be happening soon. They've been working really hard at it. As long as there are no snags, I think by the end of May. Have you heard anything different, Rob?
No, I've heard about that as well. But hey, if it's earlier, that means we can have that Galactus end tag at the end of Endgame.
They're not going to put that in there. All right, what's next?
Magic K, which ST era do you prefer? G. Roddenberry era or A. Kurtzman era?
What kind of question is that? Come on.
Well, I'm a Kurtzman guy.
Oh my God.
I'm kidding. Okay, look, I love the stuff that we're getting now. I really like Discovery, but I will side with you on this, Robert. I mean, the Roddenberry era. I mean, that is the defining formative years of what it means for Star Trek. It's what there is no Star Trek without the Gene Roddenberry era, obviously. So yeah, I love this stuff. Rob, you and I disagree on that now, but we are in agreement that I think it's the Gene Roddenberry stuff that is the superior.
Yeah, I mean,
stuff.
all of Star Trek is essentially inspired by Roddenberry, so it's really all the Roddenberry era. There have been different creators that have come on board to do different things. So,
all right, what's next?
All right. Did you see that trailer to Tommy Wiseau's Big Shark movie? Looks funny.
I can't tell if that's real or if it's just he just made a trailer. One of these things where you make a trailer to try to get somebody to give you money to make a movie. Oh my God. I mean, it's funny, yes, but funny in all the right ways you don't want to be funny. So it was awful. I mean, it's awful, right? I mean, he even threw in his like, "Oh, hey" line had to be in there, right? Did you see it, Rob?
Yeah. And it can't be serious.
It can't be real.
Maybe it is.
Can't be real. It can't be real. Can it?
No.
Oh, we'll see. All right, what's next?
Bryan Esparza. Rob, how did you get your start in the film industry?
Oh, that was a 10-year period of time. It was just one job after another. What you got to do, start small and build. Take any job you can. I started as a PA and work my way up.
All right. What's next?
Work 08. What if Endgame makes under $1 billion? List your top 10 MCU movies. Brad Pitt as a villain in Avengers 5. Thoughts? There. I got it out of the way for the week. Have a great Monday, John, Rob, and Ashley.
Okay, so Herc in one fell swoop managed and purposefully hit on all the things I hate. I hate it when people ask, "What if?" Like, what if what? Give me a context. What if what? List your top 10. I hate when people ask me on live, "What are your top 5?" I hate that, and like X actors, X villains. So well done, Herc. You got it all in there in one big punch. You got it all in there, one big punch. And I hope you have a fantastic Monday and a fantastic upcoming week as well, Herc. Have a great one. All right, what's next?
Ryan Lohner, your old man's been eating ketchup and eggs for 40 years. Archie Bunker.
Archie Bunker's a little before my time. But I remember watching like reruns of it and stuff like that. And that was a pretty funny show. I just remember Meathead.
All in the Family could never get made today. You watch that show now, Archie Bunker says things like, you're like, what? Yeah. It is not woke. Archie Bunker was not woke.
The Office couldn't even be made today. Steve Carell said that.
Yeah.
You're probably right. They probably, even though it was done in a certain way that it should have been fine. But you're right. They would have a hard time doing that today.
Yeah, that's what Steve Carell said. Okay.
What's next?
Grandmaster. Oh my God, this is not Will Smith as Genie. It's the Genie as Will Smith. That's what I felt seeing the trailer. Disney made a big mistake with that look.
I disagree. I think the design of the character is perfectly fine. Look, the reason you go out and get Will Smith is because you want him to bring his Will Smith personality to it. And he did that. I have no qualms with the design, but the animation just felt like he didn't feel like he was in that cave. The way it was, the movement and everything did not feel like he was in that cave with the other characters. It just didn't feel like it.
It was just one shot.
Shot. Yep, just one trailer.
I hope Spring's eternal because I loved Aladdin, the animated Aladdin. I like Will Smith a lot. I want to see it to be great.
Yeah, and I think it'll be good. I'm just saying, and it is only the one shot. I understand that. I just hope the rest of it looks better than that one shot.
Right.
That's all. But I do like the design. All right, what's next?
Work 08, Just Seen Fire, and Ted Bundy docs on Netflix. Both of these men 100% deserve to be in jail, but great docs nevertheless.
Okay, but I would say let's not compare the kid from the Fire doc to the mass serial killer Ted Bundy.
Who might have murdered 100 women.
Yes, yeah. Dude from Fire is a douche. Yes.
Murdered dreams.
What's that? Yeah, he murdered dreams. He murdered thousands of dreams. A douchebag? Yes. A con artist? Sure. But let's not compare to what... the funny thing about the Fire documentary, Rob, and I remember telling you this when we were driving in the car one day, it's like when I watched it, the one thing I can say for the guy, because when I first heard about Fire, I initially had the impression that the whole thing was an elaborate scam that he just specifically wanted to get people's money, and he had no intention of giving them a festival, right? And when I watched the documentary, this is the furthest extent I'm willing to go to say anything nice about this guy. I was at least relieved to see that the guy was just stupid in some... Right. I mean, he's a con man, but he did want to give everybody a great festival. He wanted to create a great event that everybody would have a good time at. And okay, I'll give him that much.
Right.
But then he clearly acted so shady and so stupid and so unwise. And it wasn't just stupidity, it was also shadiness too. But again, I'll stop a little short of comparing him to Ted Bundy. So.
Well, what I hated about that documentary, first of all, Ted Bundy is a horrible murderer, and he's from my hometown of Seattle. What a terrible, awful. Yeah. And he was terrible to women, and he deserved to die, and he did. But the Fire guy, what an idiot. I mean, he had no sense of logistics. He was, from the get-go, he was a douche. Like, he didn't even have any pretense of being competent. He was completely incompetent, and that's what made me angry about that guy. I'm like, I could have put that Fire Festival on. I would have hired you, John. We would have handled it. Ashley would have taken care of social media. We would have been on point. We would have produced a hell of a festival if we had that money.
They just needed They needed way more time. And also, I felt so
Yeah.
bad for all of the people that worked for the Fire app. Like, they worked
Right.
for a year
Oh,
for this
man.
guy, and he shit it all over it.
You know, the thing that always got me too was when people would come to him to say, we have this destroyer of a problem. This is going to stop us from it. And his response was always the same. We're not in the problems business. We're in the solutions business. Like, he doesn't want you to come to him and say, there's this problem. He wants you to come to you and say, there's a problem, but I got a solution. Sometimes there are just problems that you got to avoid and you just got to get away from, and there's no solving. But anyway, we could talk about this all day. All right. What is next?
Zach Bartron saw Happy Death Day 2 you Friday night at 9 and was surprised that me and my friends were the only ones in the theater, and usually my theater is packed for these kinds of films.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, again, Happy Death Day to You. Again, I haven't seen it yet, but I do fully intend to run out and see it because I'm hearing from a lot of people it's as good, if not better, than the first one, and I quite enjoyed the first one.
Yeah.
But it made less than 50% on its opening weekend what the first one did. Still going to be successful because, again, in standard Jason Blum fashion, they only spent $9 million making the damn movie, which is a great model that Hollywood needs to follow more. So they're going to be profitable, and that's great. But it was a big drop-off, so I'm not surprised at all that you got there and there was nobody in the theaters with you. Not surprised at all.
Sort of sad.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, Rob, I'm also a little bit surprised, like talking about that, like Zach, you're talking about the empty movie theater. Knowing that Alita was being tracking to make around $25 million, I was kind of surprised to find, as I was trying to find a showtime to go see, how many showtimes were sold out.
Right.
So I was kind of thinking, like when I finally did on my third attempt to get myself a ticket to go watch, I was a little bit surprised yesterday then to find out that the opening weekend number was 27.8. Now, and the long weekend, the President's Day weekend, whatever, it's more, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the official opening weekend, which is 27. I was a little bit surprised. But
Yeah.
at Zach, at $9 million or $9.8 million, I'm not surprised that you went into your theater and there wasn't anybody else there. I mean, that's not surprising at all. All right, what's next?
Stubble McShave. I've had nightmares since I saw a pic of John as Harley Quinn.
Oh, what are you talking about? I'm sexy. I am the individual of everyone's dreams, and I'll haunt your dreams, and you're welcome for that. All right, what's next?
Tube. I like Alita. Over under 10%. Alita makes $600 million.
Oh, I'm going to take, look, I think it can get to, I think there's a possibility, like in the 20% range, it can get to 500. I don't see it getting to 6. Even at 10%. Now, I'm not going to say zero chance. No way. I'm not going to say zero. But even 10% seems a little high to me to hit 600 million. So I'm going to take the under 10%, but certainly not impossible. Rob?
You know what? I'm going to go over. I'm going to go over the 10% because I think
because it is low. 10's low.
I think the Chinese markets and the Asian markets are going to help it, and I think it might have some staying power. Remember, Titanic opened to like $65 million, but it kept playing. So maybe if Alita has legs.
Alita does not have the receptions that Titanic had, though.
No,
I mean, let's that's one in a billion. That is one of a billion example. All right, what's next?
Topher Rocks. Thoughts on Due Date with Robert Downey Jr. and Zach Galifianakis?
Not great, but it was charming. You had a couple of really good, fun performances in there. I remember I was interviewing Robert Downey Jr. one time, and this was like a year or two after Due Date, and Zach Galifianakis comes running up behind him and goes, Mr. Downey Jr., what's it like being in movies? And he instantly looked annoyed because he thought there was some other reporter there asking him such a stupid question. And he turns around and it's Zach Galifianakis. It was a pretty fun spot. It's an okay movie. It's an okay, had its charm, had its fun. Nothing I would consider one of the greats or anything. All right, what's next?
Zach Bartron. I was surprised to see James Cameron's name come up as a screenwriter for Alita because it didn't feel like a movie he'd write. Is this a case of him writing a first draft and someone else rewriting?
That's interesting to bring that up. There are 2 credited screenwriters for it. James Cameron is one, and I can't remember the name of the other guy. And I completely agree with you. It did not feel like a James Cameron written script. It didn't feel like it at all. You could clearly tell he didn't direct it. I mean, that much, you could tell that right away. But I was surprised to see that. Now, sometimes you'll see somebody credited, Rob, as a story by, and then
Right.
screenplay by. Story by can mean anything. It can mean, hey, go write a screenplay for me about this kid who plays hopscotch, and when he lands on the number 4, he falls all the way through down to China, and then he becomes a music star in China. Go, write a script about that. That gets him a story by credit. And
Dude, I want to see that movie.
Yeah, someone's gonna write that now.
Everybody's now stealing my idea. And
I'll watch that movie.
It's got Hop Down
Hopscotch
Chinatown.
Killer.
Yeah, Hopscotch Killer. There you go. But no, it's a full screenplay credit. It's a screenplay by. So I don't know, Zach. I think he legit wrote the script with this guy, but I mean, it does feel a little bit like maybe he wrote the first draft or two and then handed it off, but I don't know, it didn't have his DNA on it. Other than the visuals, the movie just didn't have Cameron's DNA on it, so I was a little bit surprised by that. It's a really good observation, Zach.
But, Cameron wrote like Strange Days. He wrote Rambo: First Blood Part 2. Cameron's got a prolific career as a screenwriter of movies that he didn't make.
Yep.
So,
all right, what's next?
Other black guy just learned about the Stork Derby in Canada. Crazy.
There's this thing. Okay, here's the thing. There was this thing. I'm going to assume neither of you guys have heard about the Stork Derby.
I'm now, my interest is piqued because I want to go.
Okay. So, well, you can't, thankfully.
Why not?
Because it doesn't happen anymore. What happened was, back in the early 1900s, around 1920 or something like that, there was a Toronto lawyer. Bless you. There was this Toronto lawyer who died a bachelor, and he was very wealthy. And he created a contest in his will that whatever woman bore the most babies in a 10-year span would inherit his entire estate.
Oh, God.
So you had 10 years to produce as many offspring as you possibly could. It's as ludicrous as it sounds. I mean, it's just...
I wanted storks running down a track.
Yeah,
I was not thinking you were going to say that.
That was not what I thought you were going to say.
No, so that was the great. It ended in like 1930, in the early 1930s, and I don't know what the outcome was, but that, ladies and gentlemen, is a little bit of a Canadian history lesson.
Well, my grandmother would have won because my dad was one of 14. So.
Oh my God!
I got a lot of family members, guys.
All right, what's next?
All right, James Welsh. Missing Link is being released in mid-April. Given the competition around that time, do you think this would be another bomb for Leica?
Leica. I think the reason we're looking at a flop is because the trailers look awful. There's nothing looks appealing about this movie at all. I mean, I don't care. I don't care who it's from. That trailer, the trailer for that is terrible. There's nothing about that trailer that makes me remotely interested in seeing this movie. And it's unfortunate because Leica puts out a lot of stuff I love, but I don't know. I haven't talked to a single person that has gone, man, I can't wait to see that. Unless one of you two are one of these people. But I mean, I'm just not.
Well, I love Leica's movies. And I
yeah,
think
me too.
I think it looks great.
Really? You think the trailer's good?
I think it was good. I liked it.
Wow. Okay. Well, see, there you go. You're the first person I've talked to that likes it. There you go. There's something for everybody. All right. What's next?
Jared's reviews. Morning, John and Robert. I was wondering what your guys' thoughts about the movie The Warriors. Came out in 1979, and it's my all-time favorite movie.
Warriors. I mean, it's great. It's classic. Some friends of mine came this close to doing a remake of it, actually.
Yeah.
Like that close to doing a remake of it. And
Jared's,
I think they will.
I got to say this, Jared's, I think the future is ours if you can count. I can recite that whole movie, by the way, backwards and forwards.
Amazing.
I'm not kidding.
I've
seen that movie 100 times.
Do you think it would be something that could be remade today?
Well, what's really interesting is actually it's based on a Greek mythological story. And Tony Scott, before he passed away, was prepping it to make it into a feature.
I thought you were going to say Tony Stark.
Yeah,
Tony Scott. And I love the Warriors. The story in itself is mythic, but I would love to see a new version. I don't know how you could though. Like in this age of social media, how would that affect the Warriors? You know, I mean, it's you watch it now, it's almost like a science fiction movie. Yeah, it's so good.
All right, so what's next?
James Welsh, would Alita have been better if Cameron directed?
Yes, I feel very comfortable saying Cameron's a better director than Robert Rodriguez is.
Yeah.
But like I said, hey, look, with some of the things done wrong, let me be clear though. It's not easy. It's a very important thing to get the audience attached to your hero. And that is one of the things I think Robert Rodriguez did best in this movie is I loved Alita. I loved this character. I loved her right away. And I loved her all the way through, even though she had this horribly forced, cringy romance thing going that just never worked and all this other kind of stuff and had some really bad dialogue she had to speak. But I loved the character and they made me fall in love. And if you can do that as a filmmaker and you can get the audience immediately attached to your hero, you've just accomplished like 80% of the job right there. And, but yeah, I do think it would have been better if Cameron had directed it. All right, what's next?
Stubble McShave. Have you seen Requiem for a Heavyweight with a Quinn?
Aidan Quinn? Oh, I haven't.
Anthony
Rob?
Quinn?
Anthony Quinn.
Yeah, I think he might be talking. Requiem for a Heavyweight was a TV special that Rod Serling actually wrote.
Really?
It was a pre-Twilight Zone Rod Serling, or maybe it might have been a post-Twilight Zone Rod Serling. But I could be talking about the entirely wrong thing. It might have been an Aidan Quinn thing with Requiem for remake.
I do that too. I get, but off the top of my head, I can't think of Requiem for a Heavyweight. So there's that. All right, what's next?
Spencer Main, looks like Alita probably won't get a sequel. That's a shame. I thought the movie and its protagonists were enjoyable.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing, Spencer. Box office result is part of the equation in determining whether a movie gets a sequel. There are other things to keep in mind, too. Like if a movie just loses a little bit of money, comes close to breaking even, but if the studio feels that the reception was positive and they feel there's good arguments to be made that if we do another one, we'll get even more people out that time, it can do that. The box office is a big factor, though. It does make the job of selling a sequel more difficult to a studio exec if you're going in and saying the first one lost money. It is tough. But let's see how Alita does. Maybe it loses money, but then you got to ask, how much money does it lose? Does it lose $10 million bucks, or does it lose $100 million bucks? Or does it even break even, or maybe become a little bit profitable? There's a lot of questions here, Rob. I don't look. I will say, Rob, I don't expect at this point that we'll see a sequel, but I certainly think it's still a possibility. What do you think?
I do too. I mean, I was very disappointed. I love the first Pacific Rim, and it didn't do well domestically, but it did well in Asia. Toys did well. They sold a lot of toys, a lot of ancillary merchandise for a movie that didn't do well domestically. And look, we got. Well, for better or for worse, we got a sequel. But I love the Pacific Rim.
That was a bad movie.
I was so disappointed in it, actually, because I love the first one so much. But yeah, I mean, you never know. Hope springs eternal, and I think Alita has a lot of history. And maybe look, if someone did a video game that was very successful, who knows?
All right, what's next?
Bryan Esparza. I'm a Hispanic actor, 19 years old, and I have an athletic build. I want the Blue Beetle role. LOL, one can dream. Which better known actor do you think fits the role?
Bryan, I do not take which actor should play X role questions, so I'm gonna pass that one off. You got anybody off the top of your head, Rob?
I don't, but my affection for the character is the Ted Kord incarnation from Justice League International, and I want to see Ted Kord and Booster Gold and Blue Beetle go at it. But that's a different incarnation of Blue Beetle.
I think that the incarnation I believe the character's name is Jaime Reyes, and I think that's the one they're going to go with.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the one. Look, when you're looking at movies that are succeeding, like Spider-Man and like the young hero, things like that, that seems like a little bit more of a fit right now than say the Korg. By the way, the CW universe has often dropped little Easter eggs to Korg Industries. They've often dropped that in there a little bit, but yeah. I think it's going to be the Jaime character. I think that's the one that's going to be. And hey, Bryan, listen, man, get yourself an agent. Get an agent. Ask Ashley. She'll tell you. Like, you're not going to get in any of these roles ever just sitting at home hoping you get them, right?
But even with one, it's still hard. So
it's still very difficult. But if you want a chance at it, get yourself an agent, even if you want a prayer at it.
Yeah.
All right.
Just shoot some stuff and make a reel and cold emails. Go on IMDb Pro.
All right. What's next?
BMC. Fun fact: the last year to not have a big comic book movie was 1999. Maybe the last year that it ever happens. LOL.
That is interesting, but I would say hold your horses a little bit. Everything happens in cycles in this business. video games. Comic book movies are the hottest things in the world. 6 years from now, they maybe not. They can start and stop pretty quick. So, nope, I don't think that'll be the last one that happens. We'll go through a cycle where at some point superhero films will peter out at some point, and then they'll come back. And then it'll go out. Like Westerns will go out. They'll be gone maybe for a decade or so in popularity, but then they'll resurface. Or cop movies or romantic comedies or whatever. Everything happens in cycles. So I don't think that was the last time that we're not going to have a big major comic book movie.
Right.
Rob? Yeah, you agree?
I agree. I mean, yeah, again, genres come and go. We're in the midst of a superhero renaissance, and eventually, I think it will peter out. How long that will take, I don't know.
All right, what's next?
Yeah, and when they come back, we're going to be literally just looking at like holograms inside the theater. So.
Right?
Yeah, probably.
Johnny M. Into the Badlands is done this season. Thoughts?
I liked Into the Badlands.
Me too.
I like the show a lot. It was never as strong as its first season to me. But, I mean, at first I thought it was ridiculous when they introduced Nick Frost as a kung fu martial arts monk master. And yet, somehow it worked. Somehow it worked. But it was never as strong as I thought it could be. I don't know a lot of people that watch it. So even though I liked it, I'm not surprised it's going to be ending its run here pretty soon. But that first season was great. Like, the first season was wonderful.
It was really cool.
All right, what's next?
Metal Vegan. Hi, my bodacious buds and rad gal. So if Pinhead was president, would that be called tax raiser? LOL, JK. But I do have a portrait tattoo of Pinhead on my arm and a kiss tattoo. Also, any of you have tattoos?
I do not have any tattoos. I have none. Because I am keenly, cognitively aware that my tastes over the course of years change. And I'll give you an example. There was a buddy I had who I realized a couple years into our friendship that I had never seen him take his shirt off, not at the beach, not at a pool, not when we're at a party or there's a hot tub or whatever. I just realized after a number of years, never seen his shirt come off. Well, what had happened was, I think when he turned 18, he thought Cobra from G.I. Joe was the coolest thing in the world. And he got a Cobra symbol tattoo from shoulder blade to shoulder blade across his back.
Oh.
And he thought it was the greatest thing in the world. I guess a little while later, he didn't think it was the greatest thing in the world anymore. And that's always
I think it's the greatest thing in the world. I would have taken my shirt off and exposed that shit every time I went to the beach.
But I guess, but I'm so aware of that like, okay, maybe I love something right now, but I might not love it in 5 years, and I don't know if I want this permanent thing on my skin. I think tattoos look great on certain people. I just don't think I could rock a tattoo. So I have none. Do either of you guys have any tattoos?
No, but I like a good tattoo, and I've seen some great horror tattoos are some of my favorite. I would love to see that Pinhead tattoo because I've seen great like Dawn of the Dead horror tattoos, Michael Myers, Leatherface. There's some really talented tattoo artists, and I think a lot of them do gravitate toward horror material, and a good horror tattoo is something I really dig.
Yeah, there's that awesome show. What is it, Inked?
There's a couple of them actually. Yeah.
Really, really start to appreciate the artistry in it. I do not have any actually. I can't decide. I was actually thinking, I was like, I should just get one that says "can't decide" or "indecisive" because literally, I could never. I like too many things. I'm like sometimes I'm like I'll get something meaningful, and then I'm like I don't want something meaningful on me all the time, and then other times I'm just like I'll get a dinosaur, but I just don't do it. I can't commit.
I had there's a girl I knew. I did date. She's a friend of mine. This is back in Canada. She had a tattoo on below her belly button, just below the waistline of the jeans, that said "Lucky You."
Oh yeah.
So
other people, I've seen that before.
Yeah, I think that one's become a little popular. All right, what's next?
That's amazing. Mark, 1, 2, 3. Hey, John, imagine if your character from Incredible Hulk got dusted and it was shown in front of Rob. He would probably say, John had it coming, LOL.
That is what he probably would say indeed. That is probably what he would say. I'm in that Hulk film in 3 different parts. Therefore, if half the universe is snapped, the odds are at least one of my guys is still alive. At least the odds are one of my guys is still alive in the MCU. I got to hold on to that. All right, what's next?
Technovine, hey guys. Oh, Ashley, I crushed on you so much. Thank you. I watched The Room again, and wow, what a bizarre line to say suddenly. Anyhow, how's your sex life?
It's not just that one line.
So many lines.
It's not just that one line. And like, you don't have to watch The Room before watching The Disaster Artist, but man, it's a good double feature.
Yeah.
I saw The Room for the first time in a theater at a screening, and I have to say, if you haven't for some reason seen The Room, go to a live screening because people are throwing stuff, they're screaming, they're saying the lines all together. It was just one of the best screenings I've ever been to. So
now, for years, there was a theater in LA that was doing a monthly screening of The Room. Do you guys know if that still happens?
Yeah, I don't know if I think that's the one I went to. I don't know if it's still happening all the time.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But they're still doing it. And yeah, it's so funny. Oh my God, I was dying. I had tears coming down my face.
All right, what's next?
I'm upset. Whose career is more in trouble, Farrell or Depp?
I'd say Depp's.
Yeah.
Look, Farrell's put out some bad films, but he's still a beloved individual. There's no controversy surrounding him. There's nothing like that. He's had some flops, but people still generally like Will Ferrell. So I would probably say Depp. What do you think?
I think so too. I mean, and Depp's problems are more extreme in terms of money he owes and things like that.
More in depth.
More in depth.
Very nice.
His problems are more in depth. Okay. Depth. I walked into that one.
All right. What's next?
Ryan Lohner. Ming-Na Wen also stopped aging a while ago. 55.
I can't believe she's 55 because you're right. She's kind of like Samuel Jackson. Samuel Jackson hit the age of 50 and then just stopped aging at 50.
Right.
Ming-Na, I think, hit 40 and just stopped aging at 40. She looks great, and I bump into her all the time. Like all the time at different events. And I'm always just stunned because I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a steaming hot garbage show, except for two things. Clark Gregg, I think, is always a treasure, and Ming-Na. She's great. Whenever those two are on screen, it's watchable. But yeah, she's also one that has pretty much just stopped aging altogether.
Yeah.
All right. What's next?
Vishal S. Everyone has a hot cousin R&B, you freaking legend.
I'm telling you, you gotta make that a t-shirt, Rob. Gotta make that a t-shirt. I think that's your next number one selling t-shirt. Everyone's got a hot cousin.
Oh my God, that would be perfect.
All right, what's next?
Patrick Conway, The Guard and Cavalry are epic movie Irish films.
Cavalry's great.
I don't think I've seen it.
It's really good.
What's it about?
I haven't seen. Well, you have to tune in and find out. But you know who it stars? It stars the big guy. It's as a priest, and I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Andre the Giant.
No. One of the great, not like Angus McFadden, but it's one of the great Irish actors. You would know. He's been in a million things.
Colin Farrell.
And it's about a priest. No. But I have it on Blu-ray. I'll loan it to you.
All right. What's next?
I haven't seen The Guard though.
Bryan Esparza, when might Endgame tickets start going on sale?
I would actually suspect, I'm going to take a guess in the next couple of days. I'll actually guess even before the Oscars. I think it's very possible. Marvel's done more and more. They've been selling their tickets more and more in advance. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was this week. I don't know that. I'm just guessing, but soon. I think soon.
Well, it's February 18th today.
Yeah.
The Oscars are in 7 to 6 days.
6 days.
6 days, and then Captain Marvel comes out very soon.
Yeah.
So we should be getting our Big Bang trailer, and they're going to start selling tickets that day.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Yeah, they'll drop the trailer, and they'll also announce tickets now on sale. Yep. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. All right, what's next?
I'm upset. Will there be another Last Witch Hunter?
No chance.
Yeah, no
chance. You know what? I know everybody hated that movie. I got a kick out of it. I got a little bit of a kick out of that movie. Vin Diesel and Spider Boy. I think it was Tobey Maguire was in that with it. I think it was it Tobey Maguire or was it Frodo? It was one of the two.
You mean Elijah Wood?
Elijah Wood, yes. It was either Spider-Man or Frodo. It was one of the two. Yeah, but I got a kick out of that movie, but I don't think they'll ever do another one. All right, what's next?
Paul Sanchez, over under 15% Marvel will try to get Affleck to direct a movie, or over under 5% they try and get him as an actor-director.
We'll take the one question, over under 15%. I'll take over that they try to get him. I'll take the over that they try to get Ben Affleck, but I really doubt. Listen, Ben Affleck has taken a couple kicks at the can at doing superhero movies. One with Daredevil, one with Batman. For different reasons, both of them didn't work out so well for him. And I don't know that he's going to be looking or scratching to get back into the comic book genre game. I just don't think it's going to happen. Marvel makes him an offer. Yeah, I could see that happening. I'll take the over 15% on that, but that it actually happens, I'd take much lower than that. Rob, do you think there's any chance that could happen?
No, but man, I can't wait to see Triple Frontier.
That movie looks
does he
good.
look good in that.
That looks really good. All right, let's just take a couple more and we'll call it a day.
Charles A. Dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge.
If you can dodge traffic, you can dodge a ball. Dodgeball, ladies and gentlemen. I love that movie. Cotton, bold move. I love that movie. Love, love, love. It's kind of in the same vein for me as whatchamacallit, Step Brothers.
Totally.
I can put that movie on, put it anywhere in the movie, and just hit play, and I know I'm going to laugh. I love Dodgeball. Love that movie.
Yeah,
all right,
it's funny.
What's next?
Mark 1, 2, 3. Hey John, what are your top 10? Just kidding. Made you hear that.
See, everyone's in the top 10 thing. Thanks so much, Mark. I appreciate that. All right, let's take these next two from Andrew Lee, and then we'll wrap it up.
All right, Andrew Lee, pity for a percent of Star Wars fans. Time has withered away all vestiges of their childhood except for their ability to pout. Makes me sad for them and me, mostly me. Sad for me to have to be even marginally associated with these fools. They are the creepy uncle you can never never be not related to. Drunk on wine.
Well, I mean, look, you know what? I don't think there's anything wrong with people. Look, let's not just dump everybody into the same category. Like, it's totally fair. It's part of being a film fan to love or hate movies. And look, there are Star Wars movies I hate. And I don't think you just lump everybody into one little category. Now, are there a segment of that have crossed a line and become a toxic, cancerous blight on fandom? Yes, there is a percentage of that. But let's not just pretend that anybody who doesn't like any movie is instantly part of the problem. I know part of being a film fan is loving and hating certain films. It's what being a film fan is. We talked on this show about films that we thought were great and that we thought were terrible. That's just part of being a film fan. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Yes, there is a certain percentage of people who make it difficult and make it embarrassing to be a film fan and make it challenging to film fan. Yes, there are a percentage. But let's not just lump everybody into that one category, because it's perfectly fine not to like a movie. It's perfectly fine. It doesn't make you part of the problem. And if somebody else doesn't like a movie that you like, that shouldn't take away your joy. If you love a movie and you get joy out of it just because somebody else doesn't like it, don't let that take away your joy of the film. It's just part of being a film fan. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here. Listen, there were a few other questions, a bunch of other questions still to go from Count Dooku, Dimsum05, and a bunch of others down there. Don't you worry, guys. I've got all your questions that you sent in. Your questions will get answered in a video. I'm going to make a companion video. Maybe not tonight, but definitely tomorrow I'll have a companion video up, and all your questions that got sent in will be answered in that video. I want to thank, of course, the people joining me here. First of all, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, where can people find you online?
Well, first of all, I promise not to hit my keyboard and leave this lovely broadcast the way I did today. I apologize for that. But you can find me at BurnettRM on Twitter, find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work.
And, of course, the one and the only Ashley Whalen. Ashley, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on my Twitter at AshAttack1, or my Instagram is my name, Ashley Whalen.
And, of course, you guys can simply follow me on Instagram and Twitter, simply at John Campea. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here, and until our next show, bye-bye.